The capital expenditure, while the finance minister announced, is at a marginal increase of 11.2 lakh crores.
Right, 12.2 lakh crore rupees now.
11.2 to 12.2, but as a percentage of GDP, it is still hovering around 3 to 3.5%.
Right.
So obviously, fiscal prudence seems to have taken more precedence than taking risks on growth. But again, we have to see some of the details of a lot of these hundreds of schemes getting announced, and 1,000 crores here, 5,000 crores here, 10,000 crores there. Whether that will get us anywhere has to be seen in the details. And as usual, the government may take another 3 to 6 months to promulgate the policy around it. But again, I'm very surprised that a lot of expectations around a Kusum 2.0.
Yeah, especially
more
at a
PLI
time like
schemes.
this where everybody is talking about tariffs, you know that your exports are under some sort of a threat. But even Priyanka, you know, if you were to talk about the income tax, income tax के ऊपर तो कुछ भी नहीं निकल के आया.
आप लोगों की जो बातचीत में जो वो है ना साउंड, हम लोग सुबह जितने एक्साइटेड थे इस बजट को सुनने के बाद उतने एक्साइटेड नहीं लग रहा है, और वही इनकम टैक्स में भी नजर आ रहा है.
इनकम टैक्स पे तो कुछ भी बदलाव नहीं आया, स्लैब्स में कुछ चेंज नहीं आया, बल्कि सिक्योरिटी ट्रांजैक्शन टैक्स तो बढ़ा दिया थोड़ा.
इसलिए आप देख रहे हैं इक्विटी मार्केट हमारे जो है वहां पर दबाव नजर आ रहा है, और साथ में गोल्ड और सिल्वर भी लगातार अब अपने डाउनवर्ड स्लाइड में ही नजर आ रहे हैं.
प्रियंका, मैंने बताया था टैक्स बढ़ेगा, कम नहीं होगा.
बिल्कुल बढ़ेगा. मेरे अंदर दिल की आवाज यही थी, और बढ़ेगा, और मैं सही ठहर रहे इस बार. गौरी चड्ढा मेरे साथ टैक्स एक्सपर्ट जुड़ चुकी हैं. वेलकम गौरी. गौरी, बहुत सारी उम्मीदें थी, कुछ होता हुआ नजर नहीं आया.
देखिए प्रियंका, मैं तो ये बोलूँगी कि जो एक्सपेक्ट किया था बजट वैसा ही आया है, एज पर एक्सपेक्टेशन आया है. उसके दो कारण हैं. पहला कि जैसा आपने भी कहा, कोई टैक्स में चेंज होने वाला था नहीं, हुआ भी नहीं. लास्ट ईयर बहुत चेंजेस हो गए थे, इस साल उसमें कोई चेंज नहीं होने वाला था. और जैसा हम शो से बजट से पहले भी अपने शो में डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि प्रोसीजरल चेंजेस बहुत सारे होने चाहिए, और वो सारे हुए हैं. बहुत सारे चेंजेस हुए हैं, और इतने सारे चेंजेस हुए हैं कि मुझे लगता है चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को पढ़ने के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा डेटा दे दिया है, बहुत सारे सेक्शंस दे दिए हैं. टैक्स पेयर्स को कुछ नहीं दिया है. उनको ना कोई टैक्स में रिलीफ दिया है, कोई डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट कुछ भी नहीं है. वो कोई भी पॉइंट में ये नहीं सोच सकते कि यहाँ हमारा टैक्स बचेगा. एसटीटी जबकि बढ़ा दिया है, वो एक नेगेटिव ही हुआ है. लेकिन प्रोसीजरल जो चेंजेस हुए हैं, आप अगर देखेंगे लास्ट ईयर और इस साल को कंपेयर करेंगे, मेरा ये मानना है ये चेंजेस करने के बाद इस साल टैक्स पेयर्स को रिटर्न फाइलिंग में जो दिक्कतें आई हैं वो नहीं आएंगी. कुछ रिलीफ दिए गए हैं, जैसे कि जो रिवाइज्ड रिटर्न भरने की डेट पहले 31 मार्च ही हुआ करती थी, कुछ साल पहले 31 दिसंबर कर दी गई. अब फिर से सरकार ने रियलाइज किया, स्पेशली बिकॉज इस साल बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम आई, बिकॉज यूटिलिटी लेट रिलीज हुई. मुझे लगता है वो भी इस बार टाइम से होगी. फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने मेंशन किया है. डेट एक्सटेंड की गई, रिवाइज रिटर्न की डेट का जो टाइम था, पीरियड था, वो बहुत कम रह गया. अब उसको बढ़ा के 31 मार्च दोबारा कर दिए, और विद पेनल्टी चाहे. बट आई थिंक इससे, इन चीज़ों से, और जो डेट्स बाकी भी रिटर्न फाइलिंग की बढ़ाई है, मुझे लगता है इससे टैक्स पेयर्स को काफ़ी फायदा होगा.
Okay, let's now head across to Manoj Mishra, partner and tax controversy management leader from Grant Thornton Bharat, joining us. Mr. Mishra, thank you so much for your time, sir. I want to understand, of course, there has been a lot which has been said about tax compliance and ease of compliance. We've also heard that the penalty has potentially reduced from 300% to about 100%, and there's a longer window available to rectify tax returns. So that is as far as individual taxation goes. As far as custom duties go, we have seen a few cuts. We've seen, at least as far as the export-centric sectors go, we've seen the finance minister give some concessions on import of equipment required for manufacturing those export-worthy products. So overall, on the individual compliance front, and to boost the economy by way of exports by reducing custom duty, how do you see the budget, sir?
So, first reaction is that it is a budget for the orange economy. So, it is focused on ease of doing business rather than tweaking with the tax rates. So, in fact, it was expected that since they came out with the new Income Tax Act, so making changes in the new act definitely was not on the card. Second, they have for GST, recently they had GST 2.0. So definitely all the amendment related to GST has already been taken care of. We were expecting tweaking in customs rates, but that has not been done. I can understand revenue pressure on that. But yes, she tried to do as she expected, to do away with the exemption notification and bring those rates in the customs tariff as well. So overall, focus was on consolidation rather than implementing anything new. So I agree with Gauri that we were not even expecting. Yes, some we are chartered accountants or lawyers representing various industries. So there were expectations. We were expecting that she will be out with the amnesty schemes for customs, but looks like she decided otherwise and gave a window where you can pay additional amount to get rid of your old litigation. But yes, we have to look into the fine print. There could be various other things which was not said in the budget speech. So for that, we'll have to wait and go through the fine print.
मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहूंगी, आपने जैसा कहा कि भाई टैक्स के साथ कुछ टेंकरिंग नहीं की है, प्रोसीजर्स में जो चेंजेस किए हैं, लेकिन एक टैक्स जो चुभ रहा है वो है सिक्योरिटी ट्रांजैक्शन टैक्स ऑन फ्यूचर्स, और इसने मार्केट के सेंटिमेंट को आज बजट वाले दिन, रविवार के दिन मार्केट सेंटिमेंट को गड़बड़ा दिया है। एसटीटी पर आपके व्यूज, और क्या ये इस वक्त किया जाना जरूरी था वित्त मंत्री के लिए? क्या इसको वो लेट गो नहीं कर सकती थी इस बार?
इनफैक्ट मैं एक्सपर्ट नहीं हूँ इसका, सो आई शेयर योर कंसर्न एंड डेफिनेटली शी कुड हैव अवॉइडेड दैट एंड इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू गार्नर सो मच ऑफ रेवेन्यू, बट देयर वुड बी सम कंपेलिंग रीजन. Maybe direct tax expert and security tax expert would be better person to explain that.
So let's take it to Harsh Rungta then. Let's take it to Harsh Rungta. Harsh Rungta, this is pretty much a surprise which has been sprung by the finance minister at a time when there was a cut warranted in security transaction tax. There you have the finance minister once again using a very, very heavy hand when it comes to F&O trade. For I understand there is risk mitigation as far as even SEBI's guidelines are concerned, but increasing the security transaction tax, it's hurting sentiments? Is it going to hurt market participation too?
Yeah, most certainly, because if you look at the global standards with regards to the cost that is incurred in transacting in India, we are already on the higher side. Now, while we are on the higher side, and then to increase it further is definitely going to have a negative impact on the volumes at least. However, I concur with you on this part that SEBI has been very vocal in the recent times to say that retail investors or the small investors dabbling into F&O is something that is counterintuitive for themselves. So basically, they're incurring losses. So approximately 93% of the people who trade, individuals who trade in F&O, are incurring losses. So I think, there was a measure required in that context to dissuade retail investors from trading into F&Os. However, I don't think the purpose is going to be met by increasing the STT rates. Why? Because the majority of the transactions done in the F&O segment is by institutions. So I think it is counterintuitive to that extent that we are already very expensive globally when it comes to transaction cost while dealing in capital markets. And this is only going to add more salt to the wound.
राइट, तो एसटीटी को लेकर के अच्छी खबर हमें नहीं मिली है, और डेफिनेटली बाजारों का रिएक्शन कुछ वैसा ही आते हुए। वेंकटेश नायडू, चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर बजाज कैपिटल इंश्योरेंस ब्रोकिंग, मेरे साथ हैं। वेंकटेश, आपको ये बजट कैसा दिख रहा है? इंश्योरेंस को लेकर ये उम्मीद जागी हुई थी कि शायद नई टैक्स रिजीम में हम सेक्शन 80D की एंट्री देखेंगे, वैसा नहीं हुआ है। आप इस बजट को कैसे देख रहे हैं?
बहुत ही बोरिंग बजट रहा एज फार एज द इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री इज कंसर्न, प्रियंका जी। तो एक्सपेक्टेशंस हाई थी, बट लाइक एवरीबडी सेड काफी चेंजेस आ चुकी थी। समटाइम्स बोरिंग इज गुड। पिछले साल ऑलरेडी इनकम टैक्स में काफी बेनिफिट दे दिया था, और जैसे बाकी लोगों ने बताया सितंबर में जीएसटी 2.0 में काफी रिलीफ दे दिया था बाय रिमूविंग जीएसटी, मेकिंग ऑल इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट, रिटेल इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट को जीएसटी एग्जेम्प्ट बना दिया। ओके, तो काफी चेंजेस एक्सपेक्टेड नहीं थी, बट एक्सपेक्टेशन था कि 80D में रिलीफ मिलेगा, और इंडिविजुअल इंश्योरर्स को नॉर्मल पीपल बिलो सीनियर सिटीजन उनको रिलीफ मिलता कि 25,000 से 50,000 80D का लिमिट मिल जाता, और सीनियर सिटीजन को अप टू 1 लाख का रिलीफ मिल जाता, क्योंकि आजकल इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट, मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट्स का प्राइसिंग काफी हाई हो गया है। तो ये एक्सपेक्टेड था। और पेंशन में भी सीनियर सिटीजन्स को रिलीफ मिलेगा इनकम टैक्स के हिसाब से, ये भी एक्सपेक्टेड था, तो ये ना आना काफी बड़ा ब्लो है, बट रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को कोई भी इम्पैक्ट नहीं पड़ा है, ना नेगेटिव पड़ा है ना पॉजिटिव पड़ा है, तो
right. Mr. Naidu, just staying with the theme of insurance, I think we've still heard at least a few announcements when it comes to critical drugs, when it comes to, I think also exempting 7 import items when it comes to critical drug manufacturing, and add to that overall some outlay as far as healthcare goes. So in some sense, one would argue good news for the insurance industry, right? People are not going to fall as sick and will potentially get treated, and hence the insurance payout may not be required.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I think, as an extension to insurance, certainly 2 things are going to happen by these measures that have been brought in. Of course, people falling ill, whether it's going to go down or not, that's anybody's guess. But what is going to happen is treatment costs may come down, as a result of which the impact on health insurance companies' bottom lines may come down. As a result of which the pricing on retail, insurance takers may come down is the hope. But again, it's only time that will tell if that benefit is going to be passed on to retail insurance takers or not.
Absolutely. Let me also introduce at this moment Lieutenant General Rajiv Chaudhary, former DG at Border Roads. General Chaudhary, defense outlay is something that we were really keen on hearing some news from, especially in the context of Ops Sindoor, the kind of deals that we are signing with, on defense cooperation with countries, whether it is Russia at one end or EU at another. But pretty much no mention of defense budgets this time around. Do you think there's a reason why the government has not really touched upon defense? We haven't even heard anything on drones for that matter, sir.
No, that is a good question, but let me also give you some assurance that government has looked quite keenly on the defense budget, and when we see the details, we'll come to know that there is a concentrated focus, and especially on the strategic infrastructure, as I talk about. If we compare from 2008 to 2020 till Galwan, it was constantly GS roads for 2,500 crores. It means the compensation factor itself reduces the budget's value over 9 to 10 years. It makes it half. But from Galwan was a trigger, 2020, it has been increasing at a rate of 12 to 14%. And from 2,500 last year it was 7,147 crores. So I feel, as they have realized, that it is an essential strategic infrastructure, essential component of the national power, and it has been used constantly by China as a deterrence. Infrastructure has been used by China as a deterrence. So India has realized the importance of strategic infrastructure, and also for the dual use for military as well as civil on the border areas. And Vibrant Village program is going on, and Arunachal Frontier Highway is going on. Shingunla Tunnel, which is going to be the highest in the world, that is under fast progress. And there is a emphasis on infrastructure in middle sector, that is Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So government is looking at it very keenly, and we expect that this year they should dedicate it approximately 8,000 crores to border roads for the strategic infrastructure. And tunnel, basically my hope is that dedicated funds should be given for the tunnels, Shrinkula Tunnel and Chealik Tunnel in Uttarakhand, and there's a tunnel going to come up in Sikkim. On the Manali highway, there are 3 tunnels: Barlachla, Lachungla, and Tangangla.
Right.
So there's quite a emphasis on the budget. The only thing what I feel, they should have non-lapsable funds for the defense issues, capital basically. So because there are a lot of things, the projects and the procurements, which we are not able to consume the budget in the same year.
Right.
So that is one recommendation. And also we should have inter-ministerial coordination for the infrastructure, because a lot of funds come to MORTH, a lot of funds come to MHA for infrastructure. But there's no coordinated looking at all these funds when we talk about the strategic infrastructure, especially on the northern borders, in the backdrop of relationship with China.
Absolutely.
Especially. And now as Trumpism is coming in, and the India-EU deal has been finalized, there is going to be a lot of self-sustaining in the defense sector. We have to cater for Atmanirbharta. So I feel government is looking at it. Maybe as the details come out, we will come to know that it is not that post-op Sindoor, we have not been able to dedicate it fund for all the capital.
We'll have to wait for the fine print. We'll have to wait for the fine print to see. And even that 12.2 lakh crore rupees of capex allocation, how much of that is actually going to go into infra development, especially on the tunnels and the northeastern corridor that General Chaudhary is talking about? Of course, we will come into that. Priyanka.
मैं टैक्सेस पर एक बात ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि हम सुबह ही बात कर रहे थे कि फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स को कैसे भारत लाया जाए, तो मुझे लगता है रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए, पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन के लिए जो लिमिट बढ़ाई गई है, गौरी इसको जरा समझाइए। 10 से 24% कर दिया गया है। साथ ही में जो ओवरसीज पैकेजेस पर जब इन्होंने टीसीएस बढ़ाया था और एजुकेशन को एलआरएस में भी रिलैक्सेशन दिया गया है, दीज आर स्टेप इन द राइट डायरेक्शन। गौरी
देखिए, इसमें अगेन कोई डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट टैक्स पेयर्स को नहीं दिया गया है टैक्स सेविंग के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से। जो पहले आपने बात की फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स को इंडिया में लाने की, तो उस केस में डेफिनेटली लिमिट बढ़ाई गई है और इससे हमारा फॉरेन इनफ्लो आएगा। लिस्टेड कंपनीज में ओवरऑल लिमिट उनके लिए 24% कर दी गई है पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट सर्विसेज के थ्रू, विच इज़ अ वेरी गुड स्टेप, और इससे हमारा इन्वेस्टर्स हमारे वापस आएंगे। सेकेंडली, जो टीसीएस की लिमिट्स रिड्यूस की गई हैं, तो अगर हम इसको ऐसे समझें तो टीसीएस कोई एडिशनल टैक्स तो था नहीं। पहली बात, हमें जो हमारा टीसीएस कलेक्ट होता था वो 26 में रिफ्लेक्ट करता था और हम उसका बेनिफिट बाद में ले पाते थे। ये एक तरीका था कि किसी तरह से जहाँ पे हम हाई वैल्यू ट्रांजैक्शंस कर रहे हैं, सरकार को पहले ही उसमें से कुछ शेयर मिल जाए। हालांकि कुछ केसेस में तो पूरा ही रिफंड क्लेम कर दिया जाता था जहाँ पे टैक्स बनता ही नहीं था। तो इस केस में डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट कुछ नहीं है। डेफिनेटली टैक्स पेयर्स के हाथ में जो वर्किंग कैपिटल कहें या जो पैसा उनके हाथ में लंबे समय तक रहता था, वो बीच में खत्म हो गया था क्योंकि टीसीएस के रेट्स बहुत बढ़ा दिए गए थे। उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अच्छा है कि आपका पैसा आप ही के पास रहेगा, लेकिन टैक्स की कोई छूट नहीं दी गई है। और ये अगेन एक प्रोसीजरल चेंज है और टीसीएस में भी चेंजेस किए गए हैं, ऐसे टीडीएस में भी किए गए हैं, और ये एक अगेन वेलकम स्टेप है। और इनके रेट्स ऑलरेडी कम ही होने चाहिए थे। ये अननेसेसरी मुझे लगता है काफ़ी बढ़ा दिए गए थे, स्पेशली टूर पैकेजेस और एजुकेशनल जो अमाउंट था उस पर।
Okay, well, we were also talking about investments. We've been able to cut out a snippet of what the finance minister had said specifically on railways. If that clip is ready, let's just listen to what the finance minister specifically said on railway development.
In order to promote environmentally sustainable passenger systems, we will develop 7 high-speed rail corridors between cities as growth connectors, namely Mumbai to Pune, Pune to Hyderabad, Hyderabad to Bengaluru, Hyderabad to Chennai, Chennai to Bengaluru, Delhi to Varanasi, Varanasi to Siliguri.
Okay, so finance minister there really talking about the railway corridor and the connectivity, especially in the eastern part of the country and northeast. But, before we go any further, let's just pull up how markets have been reacting. And in fact, no surprise really, because markets, in any case, during budget speeches on budget days, usually are in the lower territory. And it's just when the fine print is available and the real direct sectoral impact is visible, that is when one tends to see some sort of an uptick, if any. But as things stand right now, we've seen a kind of fall that isn't quite normal even for budget day and from budget day standards. In fact, Nifty 50 is down 1.15% or so, just about kissing distance of 25,000 levels. It might just slip below 25,000 levels if the trend continues to be this way. Sensex, meanwhile, is also down. Sensex is down almost 1 full percentage point to about 81,500 odd levels, in fact below that. And despite all that we've heard by way of export competitiveness, reduction in custom duties, which favor the MSME space and the manufacturers, we are seeing even the small cap and the mid cap space is taking a bit of a beating today. In fact, the small cap sector is down. The small cap 100 index is down 2 1/4 percentage point. Let's also try and pull up the Nifty 50 heat map and look at some of the large cap stocks and how their sectors and their specific stocks are responding to budget speech, which was just presented. And in fact, it seems to be pretty much a sea of red, except for just pharma sector. And again, given that those 17 cancer drugs are exempt from customs duty, so we see Sun Pharma up. We also see Dr. Reddy's up. Beyond that, the entire Nifty 50 heat map seems to be, in a sea of red. In fact, energy minerals, including Reliance, ONGC, Coal India, all down more than a percentage each. Coal India is down about 3.5% or so. Look at the banking and financial services side. In fact, SBI is down about 3.8% or so. And so it's the case with Bajaj Finance, down about 2.2%. The entire auto sector, the entire consumer durable sector is also in the red. So overall, Shri, the market seems to be giving a very, very strong thumbs down to Budget 2026 at a time when they needed reassurance, at a time when we needed those foreign investors to trickle back into capital markets.
So this is a reflection of the market's disappointment, Karthik. We've spent the whole of last year pretty much stuck in the doldrums. Markets haven't gone anywhere. We've seen record FII outflow, 1,60,000 crore, which has gone out of the markets. So I think, and then on top of that, you have the STT, which has been like increased, which is, although, it's marginal, but I think what it does is hurts the sentiment. It tells you that the government, is not that market friendly. I think that's a signal that the, investors and market participants take from such a move. So I think it was needless anyway. We've gone ahead and done it. The big thing I think which the market have really missed is that there should have been some big growth drivers which the government would have announced, or some incentives to bring the FIIs back. I think these are some major misses, I would say. I mean, no one has, I haven't gone through the fine print yet. There may be something that we're missing, but I think the collective mood right now, as far as the market's concerned, that there is nothing which basically tells me that the year ahead is going to be much better than what we had, last year. So in terms of sentiment, this definitely has not boosted the market sentiment, and the market isn't finding anything right now to cheer about Budget 2026, Karthik.
Right, except for exactly 4 stocks in the green territory right now, Barnik, and all of them belonging to either the pharma space or the healthcare space. Max Health is up about 3.5%. Dr. Reddy's is up 0.6%. Sun Pharma is up about 1.2%. The only aberration in the 4 out of the 50 stocks on Nifty 50 which are in the green also happens to be Wipro, which is up about 1.3%. Is this to do with with something that we heard on on that exemption of I'm forgetting the term that the finance minister used, the safe harbor,
I think it might
investment.
be a safe harbor norm. Maybe it's a reflection on cloud services.
Yeah, tax holiday
and all of that. So listen, I think maybe, right? I don't think it's a terrible budget or a bad budget. I think it's a budget of continuity. It's a budget of continuing the progress. I think the only shortcoming of the budget is that it has not lived up to the hype the government itself created. I think people were expecting a bulletproof budget. The finance minister also used Reform Express, but there were very little reforms mentioned other than procedural reforms in customs duty. So I think let's look at the fine print of the budget when it gets announced. Even beyond the fine print, let's look at some of these new schemes which have got promulgated to see what kind of either tax holidays or investments the government is going to make. I think till some of that fine print is reviewed by everyone, I think the markets will continue to slide sideways, right, with no possibility of upside unless
something... So is it because, Bardik, because whatever has been announced will take time to be implemented? Whether we are talking about textile park, whether we are talking about rare earth mineral, they've addressed it, but इनको implement करने में और इनका असर देखने में हमें समय लगेगा.
So देखिए पहले तो ये पार्क पे पार्क, right? Last 10 साल से logistics park, textile park. So ये park पे park हो जा रहा है, but there are no real parks. I'm just telling you. So I think a lot of people look at park policies and say, listen, where are the parks and what has really happened, right?
Yeah.
That being said, I think some other motions like the India Semiconductor Mission 1.0 was reasonably successful. Prime Minister announced a Mission 2.0. There are 2 other schemes which have come in. Let us see again the fine print of that. But the most important thing which India needs is foreign long-term capital, which is both portfolio investors and also direct investors. And there was nothing in the budget to suggest that there is something on ease of doing business.
Right.
There is at least an intent to have consistency in tax, right?
Right.
Some of these announcements actually investors look for before committing money. I didn't spot any such intent at
Right.
least being
But
announced.
Karthik, I want to also point out the rare earth mineral corridor which they've
Yeah,
spoken
before
about.
we come to that, Priyanka, मुझे क्षमा करिए, but मेरे ख्याल से ये फार्मा की स्टोरी भी काफी इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्योंकि निफ्टी 50 में तो हमें फार्मा में अपटेक दिख रहा है,
क्षमा किया हुआ है, आप फार्मा की बात कीजिए।
हमें in the larger Nifty, in the larger NSE 500 space, we are seeing a mixed reaction even on other pharma stocks. First,
क्योंकि उससे जुड़े अच्छे अनाउंसमेंट भी हुए हैं।
करेक्ट, पहले एक बार सुन लेते हैं वित्त मंत्री जी ने बोला क्या था फार्मा सेक्टर पे. वी हैव दैट बाइट रेडी. लेट्स जस्ट लिसन टू व्हाट फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर सेड ऑन द फार्मा स्पेस स्पेसिफिकली.
Biopharma Shakti, meaning biopharma strategy for health advancement through knowledge, technology and innovation. India's disease burden is observed to be shifting towards non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer and autoimmune disorders. Biologic medicines are key to longevity and quality of life at affordable costs. To develop India as a global biopharma manufacturing hub.
फार्मा पे फोकस जो है, मुझे लगता है ये टैरिफ का भी एक असर है यहाँ पर, क्योंकि ट्रंप साहब जो हैं इससे लेकर के भी काफ़ी अपने बयान देते रहते हैं और मुझे लगता है ये फोकस जो है ये बजट में थम्स अप है, ये अच्छा मूव है। वेंकटेश, मैं आपके पास आना चाहूँगी और मैं पूछना चाहूँगी कि भाई आप बात कर रहे हैं मेडिकल टूरिज्म की, आप बात कर रहे हैं कुछ और, आप मेडिकल संस्थान जो खोलेंगे, जिसमें जो एक अच्छी बात मुझे सुनाई दी वो थी कि प्राइवेट पार्टिसिपेशन के साथ। लेकिन अगेन इसमें वही समस्या, ये सब हमें एक साल में नहीं होते हुए दिखने वाला है, ग्राउंड पर इसे उतरने में वक्त लगेगा। अ स्टेप इन द राइट डायरेक्शन डेफिनेटली, लेकिन इंप्लीमेंटेशन को लेकर वेंकटेश आपको क्या लगता है?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Priyanka. All of them are long-term implementation measures, apart from the removal of import duties on medical drugs, especially in the cancer space. Everything else will take time to play out, right from the Ayurveda centers, development. The development of the mitras in the markets across the country, right? All these are long-term measures. Long-term measures are required. Immediate impact measures are only the removal of import duties on the cancer drugs. That is the only thing that will play out in the short term. And like we are continuously discussing, that is what is showing on the pharma stocks as well for the last hour and a half.
Okay, yeah, and of course a mixed bag there, and yeah, I mean, what is green is really green and what is really red is what we can see, in fact, on the mood of the market right now. But let's also listen in once again to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, this time the specific measures which have been taken on artificial intelligence. What are the announcements made on AI? Let's just quickly listen into that and then let's pivot to that conversation.
Emerging technologies including AI. 21st century is technology driven. Adoption of technology is for the benefit of all people. Farmers in the field, women in STEM, youth keen to upskill, and Divyangjan to access newer opportunities. The government has taken several steps to support new technologies through AI Mission, National Quantum Mission, Anusandhan National Research Fund, and Research and Development and Innovation Fund.
Okay, so enough done or hardly anything done as far as the AI story goes, Sri? Because, we were also contemplating, and I think all our pre-budget discussions were talking about the fact that India has to become AI ready. True. Is just a little bit of mention of AI and R&D enough, or do you think the budget really missed out on an opportunity in a critical year where India needed to leapfrog in its AI race?
So, Karthik, I think as far as AI is concerned, the big need for India is basically to push ahead with, public infrastructure on AI.
Yeah.
We've had the previous allocations already done, 10,000, which went to 14,000.
Tax holiday for cloud infrastructure, as long as it is for Indian users, is that at least a step in the right direction, Sri?
Definitely, I think that will incentivize, because we are seeing a lot of action happening on the hyperscalers, as we call them. A lot of companies are coming in. I think we should have maybe announced something for the companies which are also developing the infrastructure to house these hyperscalers. I'm not sure if there's anything, because I haven't gone through the fine print yet. But coming back to AI as an industry that we need to promote, definitely there is a need to keep expanding our allocation to the public infrastructure, which a host of companies, small companies, developers, startups, everyone can use. Because I don't think we necessarily want to go the route of, let's say, Western countries or even China in that sense. The telecom minister and the IT minister was very clear, even at Davos. He's saying that in the AI stack, India doesn't really need to duplicate or replicate what the Western countries have done. We don't need to necessarily create all the LLMs. We are better off creating smaller language models which are specific and usable for our industry, our users, for example, farmers, health industry or education sector. So I think these are issues which need to be deep dived. I don't think, honestly, these belong in the budget per se. Apart from the budget should concern itself if it impacts government's expenditure or government's revenue, or if it's a big kind of a subsidy which is going out to the sector. Right. Otherwise, these are things which should be taken up and done on an ongoing basis and not be an annual exercise, Karthik.
Okay, and what about component manufacturing? Because again, we've heard 40,000 crore rupees, if I'm not mistaken, allocated for component manufacturing, and then the renewal of the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0. So all of that put together, at least there is some sort of public imagination around the concept of artificial intelligence and Atmanirbharta when it comes to electronic manufacturing as a whole, where India could develop potentially over time a competitive advantage.
No, so I think we have to be clear on what is immediate strategic priority, which is threatening our sovereignty, right? I think if you look at the way US or China are looking at AI, right, it's for them, they're looking at it as make or break opportunities, and it's a war they cannot afford to lose.
Right.
Compared to that, if you look at the kind of seriousness, I think the fact that we have given up on developing LLMs, the fact that we are waiting for value to flow to the application layer may not be enough for us. So again, good steps in terms of the allocation to components, to semiconductors and maybe magnets. But on AI, I think there has to be far more bolder allocations and investments. If the government believes that there is not enough private capital to build foundational models or build infrastructure, that is where I think a lot of the infrastructure allocation needs to be made. I was hopeful to see some allocation towards data center creation in India. If, for example, we want to build data center because infrastructure and energy is a big critical component to winning in the AI race, if you don't want to do foundational elements, let's at least build enough data centers. And a tax holiday is not good enough, in my opinion, to promote the creation of data centers. I think we have to...
Advocate Bardik, is the government really relying on big tech to make those investments? And they will make those investments with or without tax holidays?
But it is not of the scale which is happening. In the US right now, if you look at data centers, the committed capex over the next 3 years is to build 12 to 15 gigawatt of data centers in the next 3 years. If you look at the committed capex in India, it's less than 1 gigawatt, right? And that also over a 5-year period. So we are not playing in the same league as US and China, right? We can claim or we can become the third largest economy, but in AI and data centers, we have to at least get to the same league. And this, by the way, in the absence of big investors in India or foreign capital, maybe the government steps in and creates the first 2-3 gigawatt of capacity for India to be even viable. So again, I disagree that we can only wait for value to flow to the application layer. We have to do far more. I was expecting some budget allocation towards data centers at least, which I was sadly disappointed with only a tax holiday for AI data centers.
So we have to say bye to Sridharan, but before that I want to ask you, the budget was completely silent on the virtual digital asset which we were talking about. Again, आप उनसे टैक्स लेंगे पर आप उनके
लॉसेस को ऑफसेट नहीं
करेंगे आप बताएंगे नहीं कि वो ना इलीगल है ना लीगल है. It is somewhere in between, and Nirmala Sitharaman, she was completely quiet. VDA, not even a single mention. Sridharan.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure if there's something in the fine print. I'm surprised, but without actually going through the whole fine print, I would not want to conjecture a guess on why. But this is obviously something which is, I would say, a bit of a surprise, and I'm really at a loss why it was not really clarified.
So we will wait for you to see the
it'll take some time.
prints. Right. तो मैं अब चलती हूँ हर्ष रुंगटा के पास, और हर्ष और मैं हमेशा इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की बात करते हैं. सो हर्ष, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी कि क्या लग रहा है जिस तरह से हमने एसटीटी पर सरकार का स्टैंड देखा, अभी तक ट्रंप साहब से कोई क्लैरिटी नहीं मिली है, और ऐसे में क्या ये जो साल रहेगा, अगेन जो डोमेस्टिक इन्वेस्टर्स हैं वही संभालेंगे बाजार को? आप उनके लिए क्या संदेश है, इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए आपको क्या लग रहा है, इस बजट से क्या निकल कर आ रहा है? मुझे कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है, सो मैं चाहूंगी कि आप कुछ रोशनी डालें.
सो प्रियंका, आपने सही कहा कि इस बजट में हम जो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स की बात कर रहे हैं उनके लिए कुछ भी नहीं है. तो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स क्या चाह रहा था कि भाई मेरी पॉकेट में कितना पैसा ज्यादा बचेगा, ताकि मैं इन्वेस्टमेंट करूं या खर्च करूं। तो आई थिंक दोनों साइड में ऐसे कुछ भी नहीं, क्योंकि वो इनकम टैक्स के जो रिफॉर्म्स थे वो हो चुके थे, जीएसटी के हो चुके हैं। तो ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग इस बजट में और क्या मिलता रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को। अब स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होनी चाहिए रिटेल इन्वेस्टर की? एक पहली बात यह है कि आज का जो बजट था वो मुझे इनफैक्ट एक शार्क टैंक की पिच लगी कि आप है ना एक आउटलुक दे रहे हैं कि भाई आपका देश किस तरह से करने वाला है, आप उसे कंपनी को रिप्लेस कर दीजिए विद द वर्ड कंट्री। तो कोई भी एक प्रमोटर अगर आके आपको एक प्रेजेंटेशन देता है तो वो एक ओवरऑल व्यू दिया है और एक मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक लेवल पे ही बात हुई है। आप देखें गवर्नमेंट का जो फोकस था वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ आत्मनिर्भर भारत, विकसित भारत और ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस एंड कंप्लायंसेस। तो अगर देखा जाए तो बस यही एक टेक अवे है रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए। अब रिटेल इन्वेस्टर को क्या इसका मतलब क्या निकाले और इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन क्या करना चाहिए। पहली बात यह है कि आप ये देखिए कि गवर्नमेंट का जो फोकस है वो आत्मनिर्भर भारत, विकसित भारत एंड ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के माध्यम से वो ग्रोथ को इम्पेटस दे रहे हैं, बेसिकली ग्रोथ को एक प्रोत्साहन दे रहे हैं। एज एन इन्वेस्टर इन इंडिया आप क्या सोचेंगे अगर देश तरक्की करता है 10 इयर्स डाउन द लाइन, हम अगर देखते हैं कि इंडिया की जीडीपी जो है वो ग्रोथ ट्रैजेक्टरी पे है, दूसरी जो फिस्कल डेफिसिट है उसको कंटेन करने की बात की गई है। सो ओवरऑल इंडियन इकोनॉमी शुड लुक बेटर देन व्हाट इट इज टुडे 10 इयर्स डाउन द लाइन। और मुझे उस ग्रोथ में पार्टिसिपेट करना है तो मुझे इंडियन मार्केट्स में इन्वेस्ट करते रहना पड़ेगा। अब वो इन्वेस्टमेंट जो मैं अभी आज की तारीख में कर रहा हूँ वो मैं डिसिप्लिन मैनर में कंटिन्यू करूंगा, सो आई विल पार्टिसिपेट इन द ग्रोथ ऑफ द कंट्री। बस आई थिंक दैट इज द ओनली टेक अवे इन दिस। इसके अलावा आप कोई अगर फार्मा सेक्टर या कोई आईटी सेक्टर वगैरह पे आप अगर कोई बेट लेना चाह रहे हैं तो आई थिंक अगर आप समझते हैं उस सेक्टर को, उसकी न्यूआंसेस को समझते हैं, तब आप उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करिए। क्योंकि कई इन्वेस्टर्स ऐसे होंगे जो कहेंगे कि मुझे फार्मा फंड में इन्वेस्ट करना है क्योंकि फार्मा अच्छा दिख रहा है। तो आई थिंक दोज एलिमेंट्स को आपको थोड़ा ध्यान रखना होगा और कैरिड अवे नहीं होना होगा इस बजट के बाद, और अपना यूजुअल स्ट्रैटेजी मेंटेन करें, डाइवर्सिफाइड फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करें, इंडिया की ग्रोथ स्टोरी में पार्टिसिपेट करें। आई थिंक दैट्स द ओनली टेक अवे फॉर रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स इन दिस बजट एज ऑफ नाउ।
ओके, तो पार्टिसिपेट करते रहना है। रिफॉर्म एक्सप्रेस की गाड़ी जो है वो भागेगी, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा धक्का लगाना बाकी है। हमारे साथ अब विनोद रावल चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जुड़ चुके हैं। विनोद जी, आपने बजट सुना, देखा, क्या निकल कर आ रहा है? क्योंकि मिडिल क्लास की कोई अरमान पूरे नहीं हुए, लेकिन हाँ एक प्रोसीजर्स को उन्होंने जो है कुछ बढ़ाया है, डीक्रिमिनलाइज किया है छोटे ऑफेंसेस को। इसे आप कैसे देख रहे हैं?
देखिए, बिल्कुल मैं आपके साथ एग्रीड हूँ कि बाकी तो कुछ है नहीं आज डिस्कशन के लिए। हमारी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स की तो आज दुकान बंद है तो आप हमसे उम्मीद मत करिए। तो देखिए, कोई चेंजेस नहीं है। जहाँ तक पेनल्टीज प्रोसिक्यूशन की बात करें तो उसमें बहुत सारे रैशनलाइजेशन है। इवन जो सैलरीड क्लास है, जो बाहर जॉब करते हैं और वापस इंडिया आ जाते हैं, तो उनको ईसॉप पे शेयर्स मिलते थे, वो उनके फॉरेन एसेट्स के लिए हम बिफोर बजट भी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि उनको नोटिसेज आए थे कि आपने अपने एसेट्स डिक्लेयर नहीं किए, तो ब्लैक मनी एक्ट में बहुत रिग्रेस पेनल्टीज और प्रोसिक्यूशंस थे। तो उसको उन्होंने 6 महीने की एक स्कीम दी है कि आप अपना जो है डिक्लेयर कर दीजिए, हम आपको कुछ नहीं कहेंगे, हालांकि एक अमाउंट के साथ है। दूसरा, रिवाइज रिटर्न का टाइम 3 महीने बढ़ा दिया है, वो ज़रूरत भी थी, हालांकि उन्होंने उसको एट ए कॉस्ट रखा है। तो मेन जो है आपका जो पेनल्टीज प्रोसिक्यूशन है उस पर बहुत सारे उन्होंने किया। अपडेटेड रिटर्न में किया कि अपडेटेड रिटर्न में अगर आपका लॉस रिड्यूस हो गया है, अगर आपने पहले लॉस फाइल किया था और अब आपका रिड्यूस हो गया है, तो आप तब भी अपडेटेड रिटर्न अब फाइल कर सकते हैं। कहने का मतलब सरकार को जहां फायदा है वहां सरकार ने अपना वो कर लिया है। और अभी अगर मैं देने के नाम पे कहूं तो ऐसा कोई मिडिल क्लास आदमी को नहीं मिला है, सैलरीड क्लास को नहीं मिला है। हालांकि बहुत सारे इंडस्ट्री एलोकेशंस हैं जो हुए हैं, वो एक अलग एस्पेक्ट है, लेकिन पेनल्टीज प्रोसिक्यूशंस पे और एक्ट में बहुत सारे रैशनलाइजेशन हैं। डेट्स, इनकम टैक्स की फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न्स के लिए बहुत सारी डेट्स चेंज हो गई हैं, अब वो नए तरीके से अब देखना होगा। तो हम सब लोगों का मुझे लगता है पूरा साल बिजी रहना पड़ेगा, जो थोड़ा बहुत छुट्टी मिलती थी वो भी कैंसिल हो गई।
सो कार्तिक, क्लियरली इस बजट में मैं सुबह कह रही थी कि निर्मला ताई कहेंगे कि भाई पिछले साल बहुत कुछ दे दिया है, इस साल और मत उम्मीद कीजिए। अब थोड़ा सा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के लिए प्रोसीजर्स पे कुछ उन्होंने अनाउंसमेंट किए हैं।
बिल्कुल प्रियंका, मेरे ख्याल से निर्मला सीतारमन जी बिल्कुल सहमत है आपके एनालिसिस से कि अब हो गया, इससे ज्यादा उम्मीद ना रखी जाए और इतने में ही काम चलाना पड़ेगा। लेकिन हाँ, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को तो डेफिनेटली बिजी कर दिया गया है, क्योंकि अब इतनी डेट्स आ गई हैं, इतने अलग अलग टाइम पर अलग अलग लोग रिटर्न फाइल करेंगे कि आई थिंक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स आर डेफिनेटली गोइंग टू बी एंगेज्ड प्रोडक्टिवली थ्रू द ईयर, even though the rate of or the slabs are not really changing. Now, we are almost at the end of this particular edition, and we will really talk about the political economy in just a few minutes from now, because we heard the term marine so many times, given the fact that it's Tamil Nadu and Kerala going into elections, and also West Bengal. So pretty much, the entire sea route has been covered very well in the budget. We will talk about the political implications of that. But before that, Barnik, critical earth, critical minerals, right? This was again, while the government is saying that machinery imported to mine critical minerals is going to be exempt of customs duty, but overall the entire mineral space in the market, at least today, the first reaction is absolutely negative. If we can pull up the Nifty 50, in fact the Nifty 500 heat map when it comes to critical non-energy minerals, it is absolutely red. You've got, Hindustan Zinc down more than 10%. You've got Vedanta down about 5%. You've got Hindalco down about 4.5%. Pretty much the entire sector is absolutely red. What else were they expecting? Because obviously nobody else is going to come and mine for them. But as long as they're getting the machinery to mine, it should have been a positive, right?
I think the expectation was some sort of an announcement of a PLI-like scheme to accelerate mining, right? I think at the end of the day, if you look at the government's intent, whether it be from critical minerals or magnets, I think we've gone around the world saying that we have resources and we need to mine them. Now, any mining investment is a 6-7 year payback, and unless you create a funding mechanism from the government, it's very hard to believe. So again, I think just the announcement of rare earth and magnets and minerals mining and corridors was not enough. I'm sure analysts and investors were looking for more concrete announcements and allocations, which are missing from the budget. Now, in the fine print, if some of them are resolved, then maybe we'll see some of these stocks go back into the green.
प्रियंका, a little uptick in the markets. वैसे अभी तो लाल ही हमें ज्यादा दिखाई दे रहा है मार्केट्स में भी, लेकिन कुछ तो पहले से सुधार दिखाई दे रहा है. Nifty 50 immediately after the budget speech was down about 1.15%. It has slightly recovered now to about 0.85% down, even though it continues to be in the red territory. Even Sensex, we are seeing slight improvement. It's up to about 81,600 odd points, about 200 points higher in the last 30 to 45 minutes since the finance minister presented the union budget. But overall, I think it's not just that the budget has pretty much absolutely nothing for taxpayers. Like you were mentioning, even for the foreign institutional investors to reconsider India in their portfolio, the budget hasn't really offered them any policy update in terms of attracting their capital back into India. So, आगे मार्केट का क्या हाल रहेगा वो तो हमें 3:30 बजे तक आज पता चल जाएगा, लेकिन ओवरऑल टैक्सेशन के मामले में हमें कुछ छूट नहीं मिली है. कस्टम ड्यूटी के अंदर थोड़ा जैसे एक्सपेक्टेड था, एक्सपेक्टेड लाइंस पे हुआ. प्रोसीजर्स आपके हिसाब से ज्यादा सिंप्लीफाई हो गया, थोड़े कॉम्प्लिकेट हो गए?
वो तो यहाँ सीए जो बैठे उन दोनों की परेशानी से ही समझ में आ रहा है कि इनके काम बढ़ गया. विनोद जी,
कहूंगा कि बहुत सारे रैशनलाइजेशन है, बहुत सिंप्लीफाई किया चीजों को.
कह रहे हैं कि आपका सरल फॉर्म तो और सरल हो गया है, लेकिन उस फॉर्म के अलावा आपको लग रहा है कि बाकी चीजों के अंदर भी कुछ ओवरऑल कंप्लायंस बर्डन कम हुआ इंडिविजुअल्स पे?
देखिए, सरल पर अब सरकार की कोई नजर नहीं है, उसको आप सरल ही रहने दीजिए, उस पर कोई उनकी नजर नहीं है. उनकी नजर है अब बेसिकली फॉरेन एसेट्स पर. उनकी नजर है जो डिफॉल्टर्स हैं, जो लेट पेमेंट्स करते हैं. उनकी नजर है जो लेट रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं, जो कंटिन्यूस, क्योंकि उन्होंने डाटा माइनिंग किया अपना पिछले कुछ सालों में. डाटा माइनिंग की वजह से अब उनको मालूम है कि कितने लोग टैक्स ऑडिट की रिटर्न लेट फाइल करते हैं, भले ही वो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट की गलती से होता हो या क्लाइंट की गलती से होता हो, तो लेट फाइल. तो अभी तक वो पेनल्टी में था, उसको एडिशनल फीस में कन्वर्ट कर दिया. इसी तरह से जितनी भी सजाएं थी, जो 7 साल की सजा होती थी 3 साल की थी, कम करके 2 साल कर दी. सिंपल, कोई बात नहीं, आपसे काम नहीं कराएंगे.
पर सजा कितने लोगों को मिलती थी सर? ये तो पेपर वर्क में इतना समय लग जाता था.
20 लाख तक के लोगों को छोड़ भी दिया कि प्रोसिक्यूट करेंगे नहीं, आप पेनल्टी दे दीजिए, घर जाइए, हम आपको रख भी नहीं सकते. दे डोंट हैव स्पेस इन देयर. और कितने लोगों को सजा मिलती थी, ये भी एक सच्चाई है. उसके साथ साथ उन्होंने बहुत सारी अपडेटेड रिटर्न में चेंजेस किए, ड्यू डेट्स में चेंजेस किए. जितने भी पेनल्टीज के ऊपर ज्यादा, इस पर अगर आप देखेंगे तो इनकम टैक्स पे वो वाले सेक्शन पे ज्यादा ध्यान दिया है कि कैसे सिंप्लीफाई करें. सीनियर सिटीजन्स के लिए आप डिफरेंट डिपॉजिटरीज के पास जाते थे, अब आप 15G 15H दे दीजिए, वो अपलोड कर देंगे, वो सब जगह अपलोड हो जाएगा. तो वो एक सिंप्लीफाई हो गया कि आपको डिपार्टमेंट के पास जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. एनआरआईज जो टीडीएस पे करते थे अपनी प्रॉपर्टी सेल के ऊपर, जो बायर काटता था, वो एक कम्बरसम प्रोसीजर था कि उसको एक टैन नंबर लेना पड़ता था, जिसकी बाद में कोई जरूरत नहीं थी उसको, और उसको पेनल्टीज लगती रहती थी. तो अब उसको भी पैन बेस्ड कर दिया. कहने का मतलब प्रोसीजरल बेस्ड चेंजेस किए गए हैं, जिसके अंदर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स के लिए बहुत काम नया इसके अंदर बढ़ गया है. जो शायद क्लाइंट को पता भी नहीं होगा कि ये क्या हो रहा है, लेकिन
तो
उसके
छूट
साथ
नहीं बढ़ी है, लेकिन सिंपल करने की कोशिश की गई है पूरे सिस्टम को। जो मेरे सारे गेस्ट हैं उनसे हम एक बजट का अगर ओवरऑल मैं पूछूं तो खुश कर दिया दिल या फिर कुछ असर नहीं पड़ा? तो हम शुरू करते हैं,
मलाल छोड़ दिया थोड़ा।
तो हम बाहर वाले मेहमानों से शुरू करते हैं। वेंकटेश के शब्द जो है ना अभी भी मेरे कान में गूंज रहे जब हमने शुरुआत की कि उन्हें बोरिंग लगा ये बजट। वेंकटेश नायडू, खुश किया इस बजट ने या कोई असर नहीं डाला है आपकी जिंदगी में?
नो इफेक्ट, बट मैंने एक और चीज बोला था कि बोरिंग इज गुड। गवर्नमेंट ने कमिट किया है कि स्टेबल इकोनॉमी विद स्टेबल ग्रोथ विद फंडामेंटल सेक्टर्स being addressed beautifully. So sometimes boring is good. Already पिछले साल काफी एक्साइटमेंट दे दिया, हर साल एक्साइटमेंट चाहेंगे तो नहीं हो पाएगा.
Conservatism and not really any exaggeration or any adventurism, if I can put it.
Okay,
exactly.
So Harsh, what about you? खुश किया बजट ने या वहीं छोड़ दिया जहां पर खड़े थे?
I think nothing really to take away and to be happy about. मतलब ऐसे खुश होने वाली ऐसे कोई specific announcements नहीं है. I don't think retail individuals के लिए कोई भी बदलाव है in that sense. Yes, economy broader perspective के लिए एक direction जरूर दिया गया है कि हम किस तरह से हम approach करने वाले हैं. But I think individuals के लिए कुछ भी नहीं है. In fact, on a lighter note, I would say कि ये अगर weekday में रखते तो ज्यादा better होता, शायद Sunday और better use कर पाते.
ओके, तो संडे की छुट्टी जो मारी गई उसका दुख ज्यादा लग रहा है। हमें भी वही लग रहा है। बट एनीवे, मनोज जी, आपने एसटीटी वाले मेरे सवाल से तो आप निकल गए कि ये मेरे डोमेन का नहीं है, लेकिन आप बताइए कि अब आपसे अगर मैं पूछूं, आपको भी लग रहा है कि संडे की छुट्टी में जो इतनी मेहनत की हम लोगों ने उठ के, वो ज्यादा उससे कुछ फल नहीं मिल रहा है?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। बजट एक्सपेक्टेड लाइंस पे ही है। कस्टम्स में बहुत सारे रिफॉर्म्स आए हैं। हमारी क्या है, हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस बजट से बहुत ज्यादा है। हम ट्रेडिशनली जाते हैं जब सेंट्रल एक्साइज के बजट आते थे। अब आगे बजट ऐसा ही होगा, ट्रस्ट मी, बजट ऐसा ही होगा जहां पे टैक्स के बहुत कम आएंगे। और बजट से पहले इतने आपने धूम धड़ाके कर लिए, आपने ईयू ले आए, ईयू के साथ आपने एफटीए किया, उसके नोटिफिकेशंस आएंगी, उस टाइम पे बहुत धूम धड़ाका होगा। देयर वुड बी लॉट ऑफ एग्जेम्पशंस। इससे पहले जीएसटी 2.0 आ गया है एंड कुछ फॉरेन ट्रेड पॉलिसी में भी अनाउंसमेंट्स होगी पीएलआई रिलेटेड। तो वी शुड नॉट एक्सपेक्ट एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम द बजट। देयर आर अदर मैकेनिज्म बाय व्हिच दे विल कम आउट एंड दिस थिंग, आई थिंक दिस इज द प्रोसेस, दिस इज द सम काइंड ऑफ वे फॉरवर्ड वी शुड एक्सेप्ट कि बजट में टैक्स में बहुत ज्यादा नहीं होगा।
So, लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल राजीव चौधरी, आपका एक क्विक टेक ले लेते हैं सर। इस बजट को आप कैसे देख रहे हैं? कुछ बदलेगा इसीलिए ये बजट है, लेकिन जिस एक्सपेक्टेशन के साथ हम कहते हैं, जैसे कि मनोज अभी कह रहे थे कि हमने शायद अपनी एक्सपेक्टेशन ही बहुत हाई कर ली थी, इसलिए हमें लग रहा है कि कुछ खास हुआ नहीं है।
नहीं, मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि यू सी टू एन आर्मी मैन एवरीथिंग इज गुड एंड इफ यू सी ऑफ लेट so many years there's a lot of increase in the defense budget and a lot of things are happening, and that's why today we are proud of Op Sindoor and post Op Sindoor so many things are happening. India is gaining its importance not only economically but strategically. The mother of all deals has been signed. So all these indicators cannot be overlooked. I think there's hope, and hope is eternal. I think it's a positive thing which is happening, especially in the defense sector. We can't overlook that. It's a good budget.
General Rajiv Chaudhary, sir, thank you so much for your time and your input. Gauri, I know you are on a bit of a timer. One final take, one word reaction, dead budget, or there is still some little bit of life in it?
No, I think it's a perfect budget as expected. We were not hoping any tax rate cuts. We were expecting procedural changes. Those changes have been implemented. They have happened. I am sure this year will be very good for taxpayers in terms of return filing and paying the taxes, and less notices probably. So overall, as per expected.
Okay, and Mr. Vinod Rawal, last word to you, sir, because Barnik is going to continue to stay with us, for the next hour or so. But Mr. Rawal, to you, final word. Is this pretty much a moment of consolidation for India? Not really adventurism, just trying to get the house in order, just figure out what is likely to work and focus on that in the year ahead.
Sir, actually, if you see the geopolitical situation, it was not going to be much enthusiastic that way, because there was nothing much to do. But honest, on the other side, I will say, still there was few things which could have been done, like standard deduction or a minor tweak.
At least an inflation adjustment in the standard deduction, sir. At least a minor inflation adjustment.
I was expecting that, honestly. I was not expecting this much of dead things. Nothing is going to happen. I was expecting that few things will be happening because new income tax act is coming from 1st April 2026 and they want to start with a happy note, with a sweet box. At least we are starting with it. But I think that I could not get that. But on the other side, if I say it's a balanced budget because there was not much available to them to go for it. There are so many things happening throughout the globe, right? This geopolitical situation we understand.
Right.
And the Trump era is going on. And with that, I think they were not taking any chance on that.
So विनोद जी कह रहे हैं चांस नहीं लिया, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले और हर ख्वाहिश पूरी नहीं हो सकती है. पर हाँ, बैलेंस बजट, जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशन, अनसर्टेनिटीज, करेंसी का गिरना, इन सब के बीच में एक ऐसा बजट जो सबको बैलेंस करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. करते हैं.
Absolutely, and with that, we will actually, thank our panelists and our experts who have joined us on this broadcast. But a lot more coming up over the next few hours. In fact, just immediately after this short break, my colleague Krishna will be here and we will try and put some spotlight on the political economy, especially given the focus on the marine fisheries exports and states, as well as coconut for that matter, and the states really likely to benefit from that include Tamil Nadu and Kerala, which go into elections, and as far as marine life goes, even West Bengal. So what are the political implications of Budget 2026? That on the other side of the break. Stay tuned to News 9.
Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over the Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. India's semiconductor mission 1.0 expanded India's semiconductor sector capabilities. Building on this, we will launch ISM 2.0 to produce equipment and materials, design full-stack Indian IP, and fortify supply chains. We now propose to support the mineral-rich states of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu to establish dedicated rare earth corridors. We will develop 7 high-speed rail corridors between cities. India has the potential and opportunity to offer world-class trekking and hiking experience. I propose to launch a Khelo India mission to transform the sports sector over the next decade. I propose to launch Bharat Vistar, a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICAR package on agricultural practices with AI systems. Building on the success of Lakpati Didi program, I propose to help women take the next step from credit-linked livelihoods to being owners of enterprises. Those suffering from cancer, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on 17 drugs or medicines. There is already a framework for immunity from penalty and prosecution in the cases of underreporting. I propose to apply this framework for immunity to misreporting too. However, in such a case, the taxpayer will need to pay 100% of the tax amount as an additional income tax over and above the tax and interest due.
Special partner Skoda. You never drive alone. Associate sponsor SBI Life. अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए.
शिव प्रसाद जी को बीमारी के कारण 15 बार हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट होना पड़ा. पॉलिसी बाजार की टीम ने उनका लाखों का क्लेम अप्रूव करवाने में पूरी हेल्प की. पॉलिसी बाजार पर 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू.
With Skoda Supercare and growing network across 180 plus cities, you never drive alone. Skoda.
Philippines.
When Trump captures Maduro, News9 breaks it first.
It's happening far away, but it has tremendous consequence for the world. What happens next?
Biggest international headline of the hour.
The US has conducted military strikes.
This is the Venezuelan president.
Maduro faces multiple charges, including narco-terrorism.
This is Maduro being taken to the New York court.
Donald Trump indicated that Greenland might be next.
Where will Donald Trump stop?
A dramatic U.S. operation, power shifts in Venezuela. High-stakes geopolitics unfolding. What does this mean for Venezuela? What does it mean for the world? And what comes next? On point with the facts, unmissable insights. In your interest always. Fastest alerts, hard facts, 360-degree analysis. From breaking news to deep dives, when the world changes, News9 leads. News9, always on top.
तेरी एक जिद और फैक्ट्री वर्कर्स सब डबल।
रिटायर हो जाऊं क्या?
अच्छा, प्रॉपर्टी के अगेंस्ट लोन का आइडिया किसका था? पर बुढ़ापा आ गया हो।
इनकी जिद ने कारोबार भी बढ़ाया और रोजगार भी। टाटा कैपिटल लोन अगेंस्ट प्रॉपर्टी के साथ।
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.
Careless travel, choking hills. If we don't change now, there won't be much left to enjoy.
We need to follow the Bhutan model, regulate people who can access hills.
News9 presents Heal the Hills, continuous coverage.
You are watching Budget for Bulletproof Bharat here on News9. I'm Krishna Kumar. We're continuing with our day-long special coverage of Union Budget 2026. And joining us in the studio right now is Barnik Moito. Thank you, Barnik, for being with us. We have our very own Rakesh Khar. And of course, we have News9's managing editor, Karthikeya Sharma, with us here. Karthikeya, thank you for being with us over here. I'm going to begin by asking, the gentleman, Barnik, I'll just come to you because, we want to put the focus on what this budget is. But before we go any further, first I'm going to get a rating from you guys. I know it's a little early. It's just about 1:30. It's been about, an hour or so since the budget, document was finally announced in the parliament. Barnik, first thoughts quickly. On a scale of 1 to 10, at this stage, maybe it will change a couple of hours down the line, but at this stage, where would you rate the budget?
No, so again, I would give it a solid rating, maybe a 7.5 or an 8.
Oh.
I'll tell you why, right? No misadventures, no crazy announcements, right? Fiscal consolidation is somewhere I would give full marks on. And for me, that is 50-60% of the job of the government.
Debt to GDP ratio also.
Debt to GDP ratio, fiscal deficit reduction, then acceptance of the Finance Commission findings and keeping the devolution at 141%. So there are a lot of good things to cheer from a macro point of view. I think where I am deducting 2.5 marks is no serious commitment towards attracting foreign investors.
Okay.
Nothing major announced on the front of manufacturing or job creation. And as usual, too many schemes with very little details. So the marks may go up a little bit more
if we know what those schemes are.
What the schemes are, what the details in the schemes are.
Okay. Rakesh ji, I'm going your first thoughts. You've seen budgets for 3 decades right now. So tell us this budget 2026. Your rating at this stage out of 10.
Krishna, I would stay clear of ratings if you permit me. But I think it's a work in progress budget which is essentially taking off on what it did last time. We are all followers of cricket. Last time was like a T20 victory. So there was a lot of expectation this time.
Okay.
The budget this time is a long-drawn test match. So in that sense, I agree with Barney that it's followed the basic dharma of keeping the macros in place. And, there is a bit of a setback, as someone would call it, on the stock market piece.
Yeah.
But stock markets, as former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said, one should not lose sleep over stock markets. My sense, to speak specifically on the political economy, just a couple of points. One is that, there's the basic noise about people over populism. I think she's lived that because there are no outlandish schemes in terms of populism. Not that they have not done it in the past, but for this particular budget, I think they steered clear of that. Second is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. I think that's, again, a reiteration as plank 3 of our, core budget presentation. And most importantly, I see a very strong and definitive input on involving the states. And, fourth point, I summarize the budget as a services budget. I'll come to that a little later once we hear from Karthikeya.
Yeah.
When we say services, it has a largely urban skew and it has a, non-manufacturing skew. These are my 4 big ticket takeaways. Then I can expand on them.
Absolutely. This is just first thoughts. Again, first thoughts, Karthikeya. You've been tracking it again as a journalist for decades now, Karthikeya. But tell us your initial thoughts on this budget. We'll come to the politics of it all. There is lots of talk about, poll-bound states finding repeated mention. I'm sure you know that very well, better than me. But your first thoughts on the budget, if I were to ask you for a rating on a 10, where would you rate it?
I think 8 because it's a no rhetoric budget. It's not a populist budget. It's it avoids rhetoric. Generally, people expect budgets to be rhetoric, and budgets are dumbed down in popular narrative. Aapki pocket mein kitna aaya? So I don't think this is that sort of a budget. Aapki pocket mein kitna aaya? The budget focuses on a lot of. I think last 10, 20, 25, 30 years. This time the conversation is around the income tax exemptions and all that. Now, if you look into the details of the budget, there are certain things which really caught my eye. For example, addition of 1 lakh allied health professionals over next 5 years. India is an aging economy. We have, our profile. We'll have a lot of old people. 1.5 lakh caregivers will be trained. As Rakesh said, that's an urban skew because you don't have the so-called Sanyukt Parivars in cities, but you have them in big cities, but you have them in the rural areas. And then, for example, she spoke of orange economy. I didn't hear this word in the previous budget. AVGC content creator labs, 15,000 secondary schools and 500 colleges, Indian Institute of Creative Technology. These initiatives were taken primarily, if I'm not wrong, in 60s, where these institutes came up. They bloomed and they created entrepreneurs, professionals, public personalities. So there are a lot of things like that. So if I have to see in my opening comment as how do I frame the budget, we have to see it from the context of 3 kartavya which Nirmala Sitharaman spoke about. But for me, I think there are a lot of detailing in various sectors. For example, 500 reservoirs, Amrit Sarovars, fisheries, something which is very badly impacted because of the American tariffs. So in that sense of the word, a lot of meat. Market reaction, well, when Manmohan Singh first time, we were having this conversation, presented his budget in 2004, the market tanked. It created a political crisis, the UPA won. So I'm not going to get into why market, but yes, a little bit of politics, a lot of cashew, a lot of coconut, that's Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So there's lot.
I want to come to you on
the
that.
only premise I'm trying to make is that, it is a budget which needs to be seen differently. Critiqued differently, appreciated differently.
Okay. Very fair point to set the discussion into context. This budget needs to be critiqued differently, needs to be viewed differently, not by the usual parameters. Because my point is that income tax, what were people expecting? You had the slabs getting rationalized last budget. You can't possibly expect another rationalization of slabs and confuse people even further. So the expectation, the lensing needs to be different. Very fair point that you make, Karthikeya. Before we go any further, since we are discussing the political economy of this budget, let's quickly listen to some of the political reactions coming in, starting with the BJP.
बीजेपी सांसद विवेक ठाकुर हैं, बजट पर बात करते हैं। विवेक जी, बजट पेश हो गया, 1 से 10 के कितना? एक समाज का कोई वर्ग नहीं, देश का कोई कोना नहीं, और ये भविष्य के भारत एक पहलू को संपूर्णता से, चाहे वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, चाहे आर्टिफिशियल
बिट्टू जी सर भाई आ जाओ ना
इंग्लैंड वॉटर इज बीजेपी के वरिष्ठ नेता रविशंकर प्रसाद जी हैं, बजट पर बात करते हैं। रवि जी, आज बजट पेश हुआ और इसको लेकर आप जो रियलाइज किए हैं, इसमें क्या युवाओं का एस्पिरेशन मीट होगा?
देखिए, सबसे बड़ी बात है कि युवा संवाद जो प्रधानमंत्री ने किया था, जो उनके द्वारा बात कही गई, काफी उसमें दिखाया गया। युवा भारत की स्किलिंग, उनकी एस्पिरेशन, कॉर्पोरेट मित्रा, टायर 2 टायर 3 सिटीज में और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को, उद्यमशीलता को आगे बढ़ाना, तो बहुत पूर्ण बजट है जिसमें इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को बहुत आगे बढ़ाया गया है, एसएमईज के लिए बहुत काम किया है, काम करने की बात
2047 का बजट है माना जाए।
ये विकसित भारत का बजट है और बहुत ही आज उत्साह करने वाला है।
ट्रंप के टैरिफ को जवाब इस बजट का आपको देखा गया?
ये बजट भारत का है और भारत के विकास का है, ये टैरिफ को नहीं देगा।
कितना नंबर देंगे इसको?
नंबर देना आपका काम है। धन्यवाद। चलिए।
Kartikeya, how do you rate that? I'm going to begin with you this time around. Interesting comment coming in from Ravishankar Prasad, isn't it? Because they're saying essentially this is a future-looking budget. This is meant for the long term, not meant to save you more cash in the short term. Isn't that what the BJP is saying at this stage, Kartikeya?
You see, if I have to sum up what BJP is saying, then I should quote what BJP is saying. Let's be honest. So I'll quote them. So they are saying that we prioritize action over ambiguity, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. Reforms were implemented for employment generation, agriculture productivity and household purchasing power. That's the opening statement of the brief they have prepared.
Okay, fair enough. Rakesh ji, let me bounce that off you then. Every budget, whether Nirmala Sitharaman is presenting it or not, the questions will always be which states, when is the elections coming up? If it is a national election, there's national election. If it's state elections, there's state elections. This particular budget, I'm sure many will observe and say, a lot of focus on coconuts, fisheries, states majoring in coconuts and fisheries are all going to polls this time around, isn't it, Rakesh ji?
Well, these would be pointed out, and naturally so. As I said in the morning, every finance minister is a politician first, and she comes from that state. She has a KRA, which is the core KRA to deliver that particular perspective. I think, when I was saying that it's a budget which is aiming for a 10% of the global GDP in services sector, and many steps have been drawn towards that particular agenda. So it's futuristic in that sense. Let me begin with, first and foremost, tourism, big push to tourism, though I would have personally liked a greater messaging on getting global, tourists come to India. Like a second version of Incredible India. A lot of people outside imagine Incredible India, but there is urgent need to get more and more people to come to
Aditi
India.
Devo Bhava 2.0.
There is a push for domestic tourism which has shown some results, but there is need to bring in greater inflow of global tourists, which will improve our services economy again and have a export earning. Second is that the city economic corridors. Yes. This particular scheme has to be seen from the context of smart cities. If you do an independent audit, smart cities hasn't really shaped the way it should have happened. So this city economic corridors, how do they pan in terms of smart cities? One has to see. Speed trains, again, very urban, very service oriented. There's education, employment and entrepreneurship. That's the new paradigm or a new pivot that the FM talked about. Data centers, big ticket, holiday to them till 2047, pushing the entire IT, track back to India. And then, I think this addition of biopharma, healthcare, these are all falling in the larger, what I call the services sector. Okay. So, in that sense, it is a roadmap for, putting India on top of the services economy, which anyway has been helping India in adverse situations. But to my mind, I would have liked to see a little more push. We saw something on semiconductors, on biopharma, but a more pronounced push on manufacturing. But as I said, there are big ticket announcements anyway possible outside of the realm of the budget.
Well, absolutely. You say that all the time, Rakesh ji, Barnik, because Rakesh's contention is that the budget doesn't have to contain all big reform announcements. The budget document is a matter of receipts and expenditure, and then big announcements either which way in the recent past have always been made outside of the budget. But I want to ask you this time around, this focus on cutting edge technologies, this focus on IT sector. After completing the direct tax portion on income tax, she went on to talk a lot about the IT sector and what it can be done, because clearly there's a need for a boost for one of the largest employer in the country, isn't it?
So again, it was a lot of talk, but I couldn't find any substantive proposals. I think it was a lot of intent. I think there was a lot of talk of tax holidays, safe harbors, but is it enough? If you look at the IT sector in India, because it's been a service-oriented sector and not really a technology-oriented sector, has actually going to be the first sector to suffer severely at the hands of AI. In fact, there are actually anecdotes emerging from the West. If you look at North America, where nearly 50% of our IT sector's revenue comes from the US and Canada, there are rumors of IT services cuts in terms of headcount of orders of magnitude. People used to employ 2,000 service professionals, are now using 20. So again, is this enough for us to ensure that our IT services sector continues to be vibrant? Probably not, but I think the onus is more on the companies in the sector to be more innovative than wait for a government bailout. So I think the government has signaled that it's willing to support this sector. Is the support enough? No. Are there going to be headwinds in the future for this sector? Absolutely. But I think the future of this sector is in the hands of the sector for them to make the right investments and move forward. I think, again, the investments and the announcements on AI seemed a little anemic. I was not sure as to, other than whether it was any serious announcement or just paying lip service, because there had to be AI and mention to AI. But again, let's look at substantive proposals. And I'm sure, knowing this government, that they will come back with some big bang announcements on investments or subsidies or PLI-like things for AI and data centers.
Right.
But again, it was missing in the budget. And as I said, the budget, either you take the stance that it's a budget of only receipts and spending, or it's an announcement of policy intent. I think governments in India have usually used the budget as an announcement platform for policy intent. So I think if the finance minister now comes back and say that as a ministry we will not use the budget to make major policy announcements, then I'll probably grade the budget higher, but I don't think any such announcements will come.
Okay.
But that being said, I expect many more future reform-oriented investment announcements in the next 3 to 6 months from the government, with the intent of attracting international capital, which we've struggled to do over the last 2 years.
Fair enough. We really need to take a short breather here at this stage. We'll be back with this conversation in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Keep it with News 9.
टाटा कैपिटल 2 व्हीलर लोन्स के साथ इसने की अपनी नई बाइक की जिद पूरी।
घर है वही जहाँ सब संग हो, रिश्तों को रंग दो, दुनिया को रंग दो।
Birla Opus Paints.
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.
Careless travel, choking hills. If we don't change now, there won't be much left to enjoy.
We need to follow the Bhutan model, regulate people who can access hills.
News9 presents Heal the Hills, continuous coverage.
You are watching Budget for Bulletproof Bharat here on News 9, our special day-long coverage of Union Budget 2026. I'm Krishna Kumar. With us in the studio is Barnik Moitro, Rakesh Khar and Kartikeya Sharma. Kartikeya, this is the time when the discussion about the politics surrounding the budget takes off. This is where they stop, going through the fine print, because the fine print has been gone through. We will know, maybe by tomorrow exactly what some of these schemes are going to mean. But right now the conversation will be about what are these announcements? What was expected from the budget and what did we get? Did we get enough? Because the opposition, I'm sure, has a point of view at this stage. The government's point of view, you just put it out. But there will be questions raised on this budget by the opposition, isn't it, Kartikeya?
Absolutely. I mean, so there will be a press conference by Chidambaram, I'm pretty sure. But to start with what I have noticed in Kartavya too, there are things which I find unique in this budget. For example, we've had steel towns by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, textile towns before that, for example, Modi Nagar. This budget talks about creating university townships. You know, it's very difficult if you go to
Near
Noida,
industrial corridors.
Near industrial corridors. Now, you know, in Noida, Greater Noida, there was an attempt to create sports cities. You know, it failed. You know, many state governments have tried building sports cities. So sports cities don't exist. Only some basic sports infrastructure is there. Rai is one example of it. So that is, I think, very, very interesting. Secondly, in that Kartavya 2, in the education sector, it says one girl hostel will be established in every district. You know, I think this is like a little bit of underperformance. One girl hostel, you know, it could have been at a grander scale, you know. If you're talking about Nari Shakti, this could have been bigger. And secondly, I do agree with Rakesh here, because, you know, in the fourth sector of the Kartavya, fourth point, it says that the pilot scheme for upskilling 10,000 guides in 20 tourist sites through a standardized, high-quality 12-week training course. It's next to impossible to organize. It's a completely unorganized sector. Anyone who has had some tryst with tourism industry would know that it doesn't function like that. Yes, other things are there, you know, develop 15 archaeological sites, including Lothal, Dholavira. I didn't expect that, you know, I will find a mention of this sort of a thing in a budget like Lothal, Rakhi Gadi, Sarnath. I'm surprised to find this being mentioned in the budget. So this is also new to me. But I think there are limits of, it tells me there are limits of spending, you know. I think the government has also reached its limit of spending.
Fair enough.
Which is good, actually. You know, if the government realizes that ultimately, if it has to spend more and more by borrowing more and more, that doesn't augur well. So that's where I think this 4.3, 4.4 fiscal deficit target being met, hopefully again over a sustained period of time, is shows the capability of this government to be cognizant of that. You remember, Krishna, we started off with the wish list that I had done yesterday for News9 Live, 9 of them, barring, you know, 8 of them haven't got any attention, which I felt. So I'm not surprised. One, you know, National Critical Mineral Mission I had suggested. So they have given that a bit of a push. You know, the other most important thing is I think the political economy framework will unravel in the next 2-3 days. Once the people get hold of the 16 Finance Committee recommendations. So they've kept it a vertical hold of 41%, which is at the last time level. But there is a lot of devil in the fine print there. And there's going to be a lot of, especially from non-BJP ruled states, who will push for larger, you know, transfer of equity. So in that sense, I think that's one piece.
They've given a 1.4 lakh crore per state annually, as in terms of
total, not per,
1.4 lakh crores for the states,
which was I think 1.2 lakh crore. As I said, you know, the economic survey focused on greater, you know, entrepreneurial spirit in the states. So I think there's some direction in that. So personally, I had argued yesterday in my piece also. Why don't we empower the district magistrate as the chief executive? When will we reach there? When we do that, that ties in back with ease of doing business and that last mile hurdle for the global investor or even the Indian investor to actually get his piece on the ground or off the ground in this case.
Okay, fair enough. Hold on to your thoughts. Let's also then, good time then to quickly listen into all the reactions coming in from the opposition parties. Everybody from the CPIM to Shiv Sena, let's listen in.
वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमन ने बजट पेश कर दिया है। सरकार की ओर से इसे बेहतरीन संतुलित बजट बताया जा रहा है। हमारे साथ बातचीत करने के लिए हैं शिवसेना उद्योग की सांसद प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी। प्रियंका जी, क्या कहेंगी, कैसा बजट है?